Sorry, I forgot I was muted. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. Ms. Steva Webb, are you all right to hit record so we've got this so that we can upload it to YouTube for anybody who hasn't managed to join us this evening? Thank you. Right, so thank you for joining us. Obviously, normally we would have you all in front of us in the main hall. We're all in a position where we're still doing this via Zoom, but hopefully we can answer any of your questions and give you just a bit of an idea of what our Year 11s are going to face to the best of our knowledge over the coming year. So this evening we are going to cover a few different topics. We've got a little bit on the pastoral support and personal development we're going to offer Year 11 this year, and Mr. Shepherd, head of Year 11, is going to do that bit for us. Give us a wave, Mr. Shepherd.
Hiya.
I'll then do a little bit on mindset and attitude, so what we're expecting from our Year 11s this year. I'm then going to pass back over to Mrs. Steva Webb, who you've just met, who's going to do a bit on GCSE exams and what we know about that so far. And then she's going to pass over to Andy Walbrin, who's the head of sixth form, who's going to talk you through what post-16 plans might look like for your children. And then Mr. Shepherd is going to sum up at the end. So hopefully about half an hour of information that's going to answer some of your questions and give you an idea of what's to come. If you do have questions throughout the evening, please feel free to put something in our chat box. If I could just ask you to kind of wait to the end of the section before you put your questions in, it hopefully will allow us a chance to cover everything. And then if you do still have questions at the end of that section, post them on the chat box. That member of staff that's just spoken will then be free to type back and to answer anything. And if there's anything major at the end of the chat, at the end of the session, we'll come back to it and we will just say it out loud for everyone to see. But as I say, just feel free to post in there as the meeting progresses. So I'm going to pass on over to Mr. Shepherd, who's going to start us off.
Cool, thank you very much. Yeah, so first of all, I did just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure to have all of the Year 11 students back in school. It's been so lovely to see everyone and get to actually see everyone face to face, which has been absolutely amazing. So I'm sorry that we can't do this in person, but hopefully we will get back to normal relatively soon. So I wanted to talk to you to start with about the pastoral support and personal development that we're going to be doing with Year 11 this year. So we started off in the first week of term by looking at some of the challenges and opportunities that the students felt that they encountered during lockdown. So this was the first activity that we did as a tutor group. And as you can see from this diagram, we've got in blue, we've got all the challenges that the students felt as a year group that they encountered during our lockdown period. So there are some familiar ones here. So unable to see family and friends, a lack of freedom, hard to get into a routine without school. I think a lot of students struggled with that. Unfortunately, we had coping with bereavement, mental health issues, lack of motivation at home. It led to some arguments with family members, which I'm sure we can all sort of recognise. But also we tried to sort of put a positive spin on that as well. What were the opportunities that came up as a result of our quarantine and lockdown? And there was, lots of time to get out of the house, more time with the family and pets, catching up on sleep, which I quite enjoyed. I'm sure lots of your students are doing that. And things like less social drama, more time to take up mindfulness activities, which is really, really good. So our next focus, once we'd kind of identified all of that, was really looking at moving forward, looking at what the challenges are going to be for the rest of Year 11 and what skills that they would need to overcome those and to help them prepare themselves for the year to come. So there was a lot of anxiety surrounding whether there's going to be another lockdown, some confusion about, how are we going to get back into a school routine, especially with the new restrictions that we have, and balancing that with a healthy social life, catching up on some of the missed work. And obviously there is always going to be sort of anxiety and that regarding mocks and exams, which will be touched on later. And the students identified themselves that actually some of the skills that they're going to need are things like organisation, motivation, supporting or supportive friends, communication with each other and with parents, with teachers, setting up some routines, so maybe revision timetables and things like that. And one of the most common ones that came out was resilience. So the idea is that what we're going to do is tailor the tutor activities this year so that we are touching on these skills that the students have identified themselves that they will need to overcome the challenges that are to come this year. So that's going to take sort of the vast majority of our tutor program this year is going to be sort of focused on touching on these skills that that they need. So if I could just also have the next slide, please, Ms. Joy. And also we do have we have some personal development in terms of PSHE this year, which is running slightly differently. So what's happening is that every half term, the students are given one period where they will be dedicated to studying a topic from PSHE, and that will be done with their tutor. So I just wanted to go over some of the topics that they will be sort of studying or covering in these sessions. So we had one very recently, which was the International Day of Peace. So looking at peace, inclusion, respect, belonging, how to challenge discrimination. And they come into these three categories. So we've got living in the wider world. So we've got our next one actually is going to be on next steps. So looking at post-16 options, which we'll find out more about later from Mr. Walgren. Looking at careers, CV writing, interview techniques. We've got one on UK Parliament Week, building for the future. Looking at finance, so how to prevent and manage debt, managing risk in finance and all the laws surrounding that. We also have another topic of relationships. So looking at what is a healthy relationship and comparing that with a non-healthy relationship, how to recognize and respond to pressure, coercion, exploitation, and also that leading on to the topic of consent and the importance of that. Entwined with that as well, we are looking at British values, so the different types of families and changing structures, and the core values of different cultural groups in Britain. And we also have a topic on health and well-being. And so in particular, obviously when we're talking about mocks and exams, there's a lot of stress. So hopefully we can help them to overcome some of that using some stress management strategies, how to balance time online, and how to balance their ambition with potentially unrealistic expectations of what's going to happen. And then also we're going to be looking at drugs and alcohol and how to keep themselves and others safe. So that's sort of an overview of what we're going to be doing both in tutor times this year and also through our PSHE sessions, just to sort of support the Year 11 students through this and hopefully get to the end of this year in the best possible situation where they're prepared for anything to come. So I'm going to at this point hand back to Ms. Jolly.
Thank you very much. Just a little bit from me on what we're expecting from our Year 11. So you may remember that we moved over to a house system a couple of years ago, and this year we have launched our house values. So it's kind of they are our school values, and a Ringwood School student will demonstrate every single one of these values, not just the house that they belong to. The idea is that they demonstrate all of them throughout the year, and we will have house badges and an overall house badge that is awarded at celebration evening at the end of the year is the idea. And these are spread out, they're mapped throughout the academic year. So for example, this half term we are focusing on Dream Big. So for Year 11, the most important thing there I would say is that they are planning for success and having a vision. So that ties in with all the post-16 work, planning that they are doing in tutor time, as Mr. Shepherd has just said. And then when we move on to Make No Excuses, that's where their mocks will fit into, their mock week there before Christmas. And then as so on and so forth as they move throughout the year. So these are the values that we are asking the Year 11s to show, even more so that they are the oldest in the school in terms of our main school. And so we're looking for them to role model to our younger students, particularly when we're coming back at such a difficult time. So this is what with the values that we're asking them to demonstrate. And then I also wanted to touch base about Vesper. You may remember that I wrote to you as parents at the beginning of last year to introduce Vesper. It's an intervention program that targets mindset and attitude. So not about your knowledge or knowledge retention. It's about how you can address your attitude and your mindset towards your GCSEs. We launched it last year with our Year 10s and 11s. Obviously, our current Year 11s, they started the program last year but didn't get a chance to finish it. So I just wanted to refresh it, and we will be relaunching this with them again after October half term when they have a slightly longer tutor time again. So the idea is that it has 5 elements to it. And the theory is that each one of our students is on a sliding scale for each of these elements. So in terms of their vision, at one end of the scale, you'll have somebody who doesn't like setting targets, who doesn't know what they want to do when they leave school. And then at the other end of the scale, you have somebody who knows exactly what they want, who has a plan, who knows where they want to go and what qualifications they need. And our students will sit for each one of these elements along that scale. Now they do a questionnaire at the beginning of year 10 and the end of year 10, and then the same in year 11. And it measures their scores in each of these 5 areas and gives them an overall VESPA score. And that gives us an idea of where their mindset is, and it also then helps us target them for support. So if we've got a group of students who have very low vision scores, we look at putting in career support, one-to-one appointments with Ansbury, making sure that they do have a plan and they know what they want to achieve. So it's how we identify our students for support. Every student also has their own booklet, and they work through activities in tutor time that are designed to improve each of these areas. I went through this with the year 11 parents this time last year, and I know lots of them found it really interesting, and it takes on a bit of a different meaning this year, coming out of lockdown and considering the year that they've just had. But I thought it was worthwhile going through it with you anyway. So this change curve was originally designed to describe the different stages of grief, but actually it works quite well in explaining what our year 11s go through as they go through their final GCSE year. So at the start, we are looking at a bit of rejection. And now normally that would be, students saying, I don't really believe what you're telling me. I think it's going to be fine. I'm just going to carry on doing what I've been doing for the last 4 years. Or in our current situation, what we are seeing from some of our students is, well, look what happened to year 11 last year. What's the point? So there are many of our students that are at that rejection phase. And I think you can probably identify if your own children are there too. The idea is that they move through this curve quite quickly, and that we are looking to try and get them back up the other side. But these are the things to look out for. So denial, I'm fine, it'll be fine, leave me alone. I know it's different, it doesn't matter. Then we get to a bit of anger. And again, I'm sure some of your children will have taken this out on you. I hate this, teachers are rubbish. It's nothing like I thought it was going to be. I wish I could be in year 7 again. Don't you remember when everybody was not taking it so seriously? Then we move on to the blaming self stage, and that lack of self-belief of, actually, I'm just not clever enough to do this. I can't do it. And that links to the anxiety of, everybody else is better than me. I can't keep up with my work. I can't make the deadlines. I'm not sleeping. I don't understand. I'm really scared. And then if we can't get them out of that quickly, we end up in that emotional fog of, I can't do it. And they withdraw and give up. And if we don't address that, we can end up with students who sit in that emotional fog and who stay there. And that is desperately what we do not want. So the VESPA support and combined with the pastoral support that we're offering, it's designed to get them back up the other side. So what we are looking for is a bit of acceptance from them. Yes, things are different. Things are different for everybody. We haven't been here before. It's hard, but you have the support there and it is going to be okay. And then hopefully they'll see a bit of improvement. We have regular progress checks, which we'll give you those dates in a moment, in addition to mock results. And that's another reason why the mocks are so important, because it will give them a kind of affirmation that things will get better and things are improving. They've not had results for such a long time that it's so important that they can see that they have the power to change those and to move forward. And to remember that there are some parts of their courses that they did actually like. They did actually choose these subjects. And so then we hope that they get to the get on with it stage. So this is what we are expecting, and this is what we're trying to support them to get through. I thought it was worth sharing last year's results. So the year 11s actually did manage to get their second questionnaire in just before we went into lockdown, and their results were really interesting. I was lucky enough to speak to the author of the book. So all this theory stems from a book about GCSE mindset. And I met with the author and he said that a 0.2 difference is significant. So you can see that our vision was our biggest difference. And that is a real testament to the career support that we put in place that really gets them to a place where they know what they want and they know what they're doing. And you can see that we had increases at pretty much everywhere else as well. So systems in terms of how they revise, how they plan their time, practice, what they're doing, how they're targeting specific areas of each subject, and their mindset as well, their attitude towards their work, their belief in themselves also really significantly improved, which was really good to see. The only one, interestingly, that went down was effort. And the best way I can spin that is that they were actually doing so well that they didn't even feel the need they need to put that much effort in. I think that's the best way I can describe that. But so overall, their VESPA score went up by 0.4 as a cohort, which was really, really positive. And so we're hoping for something similar from year 10, but I will be sharing those results with you as we move through the year. So I am going to pass back over to Mrs. Heaver-Webb, who is going to go through what we do know about GCSE exams next year.
Thank you very much, Heather. So Heather's described it really perfectly, that there are some things we do know, and at the moment, as you will know, there are still quite a lot of things that we don't know. So I just wanted to start off by flagging the current set of dates for GCSE exams. At the moment, what we know is that exams are scheduled to begin in the week beginning the 11th of May, and they are scheduled to end in the week on the 29th of June. Now, that would be the normal exam period. We know that Ofqual have proposed that that exam period is pushed back in the school year. And so the date that has been currently proposed for GCSEs to begin is the 7th of June after May half term. So that would give us an extra 2 weeks of teaching time. They are still consulting on that date. So there is not yet a decision made about whether or not that date will change. And it's obviously all wrapped up in how quickly results can come out in the summer and all the ramifications for students at the end of year 11 who are then looking to go on to their next steps. So all we can really say about that is, please keep an open mind with regard to dates. We will, of course, let you know as soon as those dates are confirmed or any different dates are confirmed. So that's the current position. Thank you, Heather, if you could, thank you. I wanted to talk a little bit about the mock exams, because obviously you will know that we have our first mock exams next Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday in maths and science. And if you have had a chance to look at the fridge calendars that were sent home yesterday, you will have seen, I'm sure, that we also have, as well as the December mock week, we have got some English mock exams, one in November, one in January, one in March, and then a further set of maths exams and science exams. Now that is our normal schedule. So whilst the timings are a little bit different this year, we normally do the maths and science exams slightly earlier. That is the normal amount of mocks that we have. And the reasons for that are for the core subjects, firstly, because obviously they are so important for your children to do as well as possible in. And secondly, for all of the core subjects, they have actually a large number of exams that, first of all, it just isn't possible to schedule them all into a December mock week. And also, really, the more practice that students can have with sitting those exams, getting the feedback, finding out what they did well in and what they did less well in, the better and more confident they will feel by the time they get to May to sitting them for real. We've also got particular reasons this year, as you all understand, that normally your sons and daughters would have had an exam week at the end of year 10, which clearly couldn't happen. And so we need to get them used to being in an exam hall, because that can be a different experience and have obviously a very particular feeling about it. We also want them to get back to revising. They haven't had to revise anything specific or big for obviously quite a long period of time since before we went into lockdown. And again, had things been normal, they would have had that chance to revise, to get things into their long-term memory, and simply to remember which types of revision work well for them and which types work less well. So it is a genuine chance for them to try out strategies and then to find out what works in a way that isn't as high stakes as clearly it will be at the end of the year. It's really important to revise, because the very process of going back over the work, we know from the research, from all the neuroscience that comes out more and more, actually helps lock that knowledge into students' longer term memory. So going through that process of revising in itself is a really important way to remember the information and to be able to recall it in an exam situation. You will also understand, obviously, that we need to know as teachers what the gaps are for all the students that we have in front of us. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. We need to know what students have understood and learned from year 10, including obviously the lockdown period, and what they haven't. And clearly it's really important for your sons and your daughters to know that as well, because they may feel that they did learn certain things in lockdown or certain things were too hard, but until they're in a situation where they're having to recall that and use that knowledge in an exam room, sometimes the perception of what you do and don't understand doesn't always feed into the outcomes. So for all those reasons, we are using mocks. And then the last reason on there, the last bullet point, is the catch-up programme. And I'm sure that we would get lots of questions about this. So if I can just say something about catching up now. Clearly, you want to know and your children want to know what we're going to do together and how we're going to work with our students to make sure that lockdown and that period of remote learning doesn't have a detrimental effect, and that any gaps are filled and any misunderstandings are corrected. We can't put that into place right now yet, because partly we need to know through the mocks, but also through the ongoing small low stakes assessments and tests that I'm sure your children will have come home and told you that they've done in lots of subjects. We need that information from those assessments, those tests, those quizzes. What is it students are really genuinely struggling with, and what is it therefore that we need to put provision in place for? The other thing that we're waiting for and responding to all the time is what changes exam boards are currently making in some subjects as a result of the Ofqual, the exam board regulators' decisions about what is and isn't to be in the summer exams. So Ofqual decided that in August. It's actually only just now in the last couple of weeks, and still for some exam boards hasn't yet come through, how that's actually going to change the shape of the exams themselves in terms of timings and marks and all those sorts of things. So our subject leaders are being responsive. They're changing things all the time to ensure that students are prepared and that catch up is done. But rest assured, as we go forward, we will be putting those programs into place, and they will be different in every subject and different for different students. Thank you, Heather. So just to talk a little bit more about support that's available to prepare your sons and daughters for the mock exams particularly, and obviously then for the real thing. We will have our normal revision evening that we normally schedule for November. For obvious reasons this time round, it will be a virtual revision evening, which has some strengths about it, that all the videos, all the sessions that you would normally have had to choose for, you'll be able to access all of them. They'll all be online. You can watch them with your children, you can watch them on your own, you can watch them more than once with your sons and daughters. So hopefully there will actually be some real advantages. Some of those sessions students are going to watch in school to make sure that everybody watches those sessions, and then the revision booklet will have strategies in it, but it will also have a revision checklist for every subject, so that all our students will actually be able to go through and know with real confidence what do they need to plan to revise. So that revision evening will, if you like, start on the 4th of November, but obviously you will be able to access the resources after that. The week after that, we will have our full consultation evening. Again, like all our consultation evenings this term, it will be virtual. We have some new software, which we're very excited about, which we will be sharing with you how it works. Don't worry, it'll be very simple. That will allow you to book and then essentially to dial in to an appointment with your children's teachers, same as normal, just not face to face. So you can avoid the queues and hopefully make sure that you can get appointments with every member of staff that you would like to see. Thank you. We've then got a second consultation evening like we normally would, in January, which comes after our mock exams. And then the key date slide. So you've had this information yesterday on the fridge calendars. Your sons and daughters will get a copy of that fridge calendar themselves over the next few days in tutor time, but you can just see the key dates there and hopefully see the way that things are planned so that we're supporting your sons and daughters. We're also giving you information and them about what they're predicted to get at several points during the year. We've got the 2 consultation evenings, and then obviously the nice bit, the prom, but I'll let Miss Jolly perhaps say something else. Fingers crossed, she's putting her fingers crossed, so we will have to do that this year. So I think that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just before we hand over to Mr. Warburton on prom, we have tentatively booked AFC Bournemouth as a venue, and we very much hope that we're going to be able to have a Year 11 prom this year, but I would err on the side of caution in terms of buying outfits just yet. Let's wait and see, but fingers crossed. Right, Mr. Warburton.
Good evening. So I'm going to talk through sort of post-16 plans, and as we heard earlier on this evening, the importance of having a vision and the importance of dreaming big as part of our core house values. With everything else we've already heard about, the students do very much need to start to think about their post-16 plans. And that diagram that was just sort of photographed there, every single student will be different, and their journey may not be a straight road in terms of what they want to have. But all students are required to stay in education, training until the age of 18. And so their post-16 options are to hopefully remain at Ringwood School and join our very successful sixth form, to join another school sixth form, to attend a college, or to apply for an apprenticeship or employment with training. So over the next few weeks, the students are going to be given a huge amount of information to support them and guide them through that process, because deadlines, as I'll share later, are coming up quite thick and fast. This has begun this week, and some students have already done this, and others will be starting during the course of the week. Look at this amazing website called Saku, which gets the students to respond to different images and then gives them a sort of career cloud of different ideas and different things that they could potentially investigate if they haven't got a clue in terms of what they want to do. And it's a really powerful way of sort of starting to think about the future and starting to think about which way to go. And this was my one that I did a couple of years ago, and I think just a variety of different things. And when I look back at some of the things that I've done inside and outside of my career and the subjects that I enjoy teaching, geography, tourism, sport, it does ring true. And colleagues that have done this, particularly those that haven't gone straight into teaching, and I've had a variety of careers, when we respond to those images, it's a really powerful way to start. So that's happening this week, and you could ask to see your son and daughter's career cloud. And then over the next couple of weeks, onto the next slide, we will push this website as well. This has come from an elite group of research universities called the Russell Group Universities. So obviously, as we're starting to think about post-16, we are hopefully starting to think about maybe the qualifications that we're going to be moving on to, our A-levels, our B-Techs, our C-Techs. And some of those pathways that the students will be following have very clear paths that they have to follow. So that Informed Choices website really guides the students through the sorts of things they should be thinking about and the decisions they need to make, so that if they are thinking potentially of a pathway down to the university, they are choosing the correct post-16 plan. All the students will also have access to this amazing careers-based website called Unifrog. It originally started out focusing on university, but very much focused on careers and aspiring students to think about a whole variety of different things, and it evolves every year. We've used it for about 2 or 3 years. You can access it yourselves and have your own personal login, and the details are there at the bottom. So you can explore it yourselves. You won't be able to see what your sons and daughters are doing. We do that in school, and the tutors and the sixth form team will support them with that. And we use this very much post-16. So one of the reasons we like this, if we go on to the next slide, Ms. Jolly, if that's okay, is that the students can research a variety of different aspects of their futures, and it stays with them. So as long as they stay at Ringwood School, they have access to their Unifrog account, and the shortlist that they can build up and a variety of different pathways will stay there. And many other platforms don't do that. So we really, really enjoy it, and it will be going out to students in the next couple of weeks. They'll have their own logins to start to think about their futures, and it comes highly, highly recommended. So on the next couple of slides, it's very user-friendly. It's all done by tiles like this. So you can click on a tile, and then it gives you a whole sort of profile. So for example, the careers library, over 800 different jobs, different stories, different videos, really interactive. And again, you can add this to your favorites. It tells you about the qualifications, the journeys that these people have been on, and the sorts of courses that you might want to think about studying going forward. So a really powerful tool that is really good. You can do it by subject. So if you know, are really enjoying history, what can I do with history? Then it opens up a whole career pathway, potential degrees as well, and potential areas of interest. And as it says there, you can build up a whole variety of different options to explore. So it's a really good tool that we recommend. And again, thinking about, as I said earlier, about going on to higher education or potentially off to university, it's not too early to start to think about that in terms of aspiring, in terms of where am I going to go post 18? What type of degree might I do? What type of courses, what type of package of A-levels, BTEC, CTEC should I be doing? And if a student already has a clear path in mind, then again, you can build up and that link back to the Russell groups that I've mentioned before, the elite research universities. You may want to have a look at that in terms of aspiring to say what they've said on their website and how does this fit into the profile that I'm building in terms of my interests through Unifrog. This isn't easy, and as Miss Jolly's already said, you know, we are here to help. Mr. Shepherd's mentioned it as well. There are so many different people to help and guide the students during this term. It is very difficult, and we do encourage the students to really think about this, reflect on themselves, talk to lots of people, but make the decision that is right for them. And the key advice really that we've learned over the years is the deadlines are real. So the colleges, the sixth forms, the courses will fill up very quickly. They are very popular. And so leaving it and burying your head in the sand sort of idea of it will all be okay, it won't be. Deadlines are real, entry requirements are real. And even though there's uncertainty at the moment, there are some things that definitely won't change. So a lot of the schools and colleges have virtual open days that are coming up. Obviously, we can't visit the schools and colleges at the moment. And so it's important that the students are encouraged to talk to as many people as they possibly can. The Year 13s, for example, are doing this. And a key date for your diary is the 18th of November. That is our virtual open evening, where I will go into more details about post-16 life at Ringwood. The students will have had some input already in school about this. They'll have had the school prospectus, they'll have our options, our option blocks, the application deadline, and then that virtual open evening will be a presentation, as I said, from myself, and then the opportunity to hear from lots of different subjects and students about post-16 life and their journeys through it. I have to say at this time, obviously, colleges, other sixth forms and schools are doing that, but we do very much hope that you'll work with us and really consider Ringwood Sixth Form as your next step post-16. And I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible on the 18th of November. And any post-16 questions anytime, please do get in touch with Mr. Shepherd, myself, Miss Jolly, and we'll do our very best to answer those for you. Thank you, Miss Jolly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Walbrin. I'm just going to pass back over to Mr. Shepherd, who's just going to sum the session up for us. Just a reminder that if you do have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. We're all contributing to the answers depending on what we know, so please feel free to ask. There's no such thing as a stupid question, so please don't worry about asking something. Mr. Shepherd. Thank
you very much. So really my final thoughts are sort of what you can do to help with your Year 11 students. And I've put some pictures at the bottom here just to represent some different types of students that you might be familiar with. There might be the ostrich on the left-hand side, where under the stress of it all has kind of buried their head in the sand and sort of hoping that everything will go away. We've also got on the right-hand side there, we've got the sprinter there, where maybe it might be a case of sort of leaving it until the last minute and then having a mad dash to the finish towards the end of the year. Where really we want everyone to be sort of in the middle there, where we've got slow and steady wins the race. So making sure that we are getting prepared from this point forwards for whatever it is to come. So in order for us to do that, really, what we need you to be doing is encouraging high attendance at school. Obviously, with the fact that we haven't had school as normal since or until now, we haven't had school as normal since March, and there's been a lot of time off. We really need the students to be in school as much as possible. Help them make a plan for their time. So it might be worth sitting down, making a timetable for the week, incorporating revision into that, incorporating home learning, and also obviously incorporating the other side of things, so the social side of things, and making sure that they have a healthy balance. because what we don't want is for them to be, you know, working themselves into the ground sort of too later on in the year when they realise that that actually they've got a lot to do if they don't act now. Be their study buddy as well. It's really, really effective. I remember when I was studying for my GCSE, sort of sitting at the end of my mum's bed, giving her the revision guide and asking her to quiz me on various different things. And it is a really, really effective way of doing it. So please do be their study buddy, help them so that you can feel included in it, and they know that you are interested and that you're there to help them when they need it. Recognise their strengths, but also keeping your expectations high across the board. So I know that obviously students have strength in particular subjects and areas, but it is really important because in reality, this is the students' last opportunity to show that they can put their minds to absolutely anything, regardless of whether they're interested in it or whether they enjoy it. And that's a really, really lovely thing to have on their CV when they apply for jobs and for post-16 opportunities, to show that you are able to, no matter what, put your mind to anything and get yourself a good grade in that subject. It's a really, really good plus sign on their CV. And the last thing really is just to keep calm. Or at least pretend to, as it says, because in reality we are unfortunately going into a relatively uncertain year, and we need to be in a situation where whatever is thrown at us, we need to be the people who are keeping calm and who are reassuring the students that everything will be all right, things will work out, and ideally, really what we're asking the students to do is just to try to make sure from this point that whatever is thrown at them, that they've given themselves the best opportunity to succeed, and they've put themselves in the best position that they can for the future. So at that point, I'm going to hand over to Mrs. Heaver-Webb just to finish off.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shepherd. I've just seen a couple of questions about revision sessions and catch-up. And as I said earlier, the catch-up, what we do, will be determined by the information that we are picking up from students all the time. And it will be different subject by subject, because obviously different subjects have different needs and priorities in terms of different parts of the exam, and so your child's teacher will be best placed to be able to talk to your sons and daughters about what they need to catch up on and how that will be done, and how we will work with your students to ensure that they are caught up and that any gaps that they do have will be filled over the course of this year. Okay, so thank you very much for your time this evening. We hope that it's proved to be a useful session. Ms. Jolly, I think, did put up in the chat that this will be available on the website. So if you do know anyone who's missed it, or you would like to watch it again, then please do look on the website over the next couple of days, as well as all the slides as well, so that if there is information or you want to have a look at some of the websites that Mr. Walburn went through, all of that will be available for you. So thank you for your time. We look forward to being able to share with you all the activities for revision evening, and then we look forward to be able to see you again, albeit via a screen, on consultation evening on the 12th of November. Thank you very much.